They planned to trade my lifelong love and my $50,000 worth of art for just 7 hours of free babysitting. I, Eleanor Vance, taught them a devastating lesson in dignity. I am Eleanor Vance. Many know me as the soft cake lady, a retired culinary critic who once catered for royalty. But at home, I was just Ellie, 68 years old, a widow who had spent a lifetime building a strong family. I live in a cozy cottage with the city's most beautiful rose garden, where I plan to spend my golden years in tranquility. However, that peace was disrupted by the momentous event, the wedding of my only son, Andrew, or Andy to his stunning fiancée, Serafina Thorne. For 6 months, I poured my heart, finances, and 4 decades of invaluable experience into making my son's big day a masterpiece. This was not just a wedding reception. It was my final declaration of love. I promised to design and execute the entire 7-course exclusive dinner, a signature menu I usually reserved only for my most prestigious clients. The cost of ingredients and labor alone, if hiring a top chef, far exceeded $50,000. But that wasn't all. The centerpiece of the reception, the item every guest anticipated, was the 3-tiered sculpted wedding cake. It was a sugar masterpiece, with delicate spun sugar orchids, a work of art that took me an entire final week to complete. This was my last grand creation, a legacy I wanted to give my son. To me, it was a priceless wedding gift, filled with pride and sacred maternal love. Serafina, or Sara, was young, beautiful, and always impeccably charming. She called me Mama Ellie, in a voice as sweet as honey, often bringing me bouquets of lilac and insisting I teach her the family croissant recipe. "Mama Ellie," she'd say, her blue eyes sparkling with feigned admiration, "you are so lucky to have such a talented mother-in-law. Andy is so happy." Those words at the time made my heart swell. After years of loneliness following my husband's death, I felt a new purpose, a new role. That Tuesday, just 5 days before the wedding, I was in the kitchen, my hands dusted with flour from testing the final buttercream for the sculpted cake. I was concentrating on calculating the delivery time for the fresh produce when Sarah's voice drifted in from the marble-tiled patio outside the garden. Normally, I would never eavesdrop, but something in her tone, a cold, calculated edge I had never heard, made me pause. I quietly moved to the kitchen window, concealing myself behind the sheer lace curtain. "Audrey," Sara whispered to Bianca, her sister, who had just flown in from Milan. "Everything for the children's entertainment zone is perfectly sorted. Andy's mother will manage them all night." Completely free of charge, my body went rigid. A children's entertainment zone? I had offered to help with the velvet ribbon bow on the archway, not manage a summer camp. Bianca laughed, a coarse, echoing sound. "Brilliant, sis. The old lady will be chasing screaming kids while we dance, drink champagne, and enjoy the romance. She'll be useful for once." Useful? Just for once? Rage began to burn in my chest, a cold fire. "Exactly," Sara continued, her voice now completely bare, devoid of sweetness. "I told Andy his mother is wonderful with children and loves watching them. She'll never realize we're just exploiting her. She's always so eager to help with everything. It's like having a professional nanny for free all evening." Tears began to stream down my face, not of sorrow, but of absolute humiliation. I was here, with sugar-stained hands and thousands of dollars spent, sacrificing my sleep and relaxation, while they viewed me as an unpaid servant and a convenient tool. "And she agreed?" Bianca asked. Sara smirked. "We didn't even have to ask directly. Andy just casually mentioned there would be a few kids, and she immediately offered to help if they needed anything at all. Of course, we said yes. She's perfect for the job, experienced, and most importantly, she won't charge a cent." That was when the pain transformed into terrifying fury. But the peak of the cruelty came right after. "The best part," Sara went on, her voice triumphant, "is that because she'll be busy with the kids all night, she won't have time to eat her 7-course meal. It's all for our important guests." They both burst into laughter, the sound like thorns piercing my heart. 68 years of life, raising one son, always putting family first. And this was how they repaid me. By treating me as something trivial, a useful object to be kept busy so I wouldn't be a nuisance. I stood behind the curtain, clenching my fists until my nails dug into my flesh. The anger was not just injury, but betrayal from my own flesh and blood. Andy knew how much the 7-course dinner and the sculpted cake meant to me. They were my soul. Yet he was complicit. You know what else I love about this? Sara continued. Because the old lady will be running after kids all night, she won't be able to butt into the adult conversations. You know, mothers-in-law, always wanting to give their opinion on everything and telling boring stories about Andy when he was little. Bianca laughed again. Oh God, yes. My mother-in-law is the same, always interrupting with trivial things from 50 years ago that no one cares about. At least yours will be useful for once. Another useful. Condescending and heartless. Enough. I backed away from the window, my stomach twisting. The woman I had viewed as a daughter, the one I had shared the family croissant secrets with, turned out to be a perfect actress. She saw me as a free utility and an obstacle. I went straight to my room, my legs shaking. I looked at the family photos on the bedside table, pictures of Andy's graduation, his baptism, our summer vacations by the sea. I had dedicated my life to being the best mother. And now, thinking I was gaining a daughter, I discovered I was just a convenient tool, but I was 68 years old. I had overcome losses and built a career from nothing. I would not let them treat me like a servant right under my nose. For the next few days, I wore a mask of serenity. When Andy called to check in, I answered softly, "Everything is perfect, son." The cake will be a masterpiece. When Sara stopped by and said, "Mama Ellie, don't worry too much about the wedding. Just relax and enjoy." I smiled and nodded. Inside me, a plan was forming. If they wanted to play dirty, I could too. I had lived 68 years. I would not let my kindness be mistaken for servitude. I would reclaim my dignity, piece by piece. On Wednesday night, just 3 days before the fateful day, the anger had subsided, giving way to the cold clarity of reason. I needed an ally, someone who understood the complexity of maternal love and the pain of betrayal. I called Rosalind Hayes, my best friend of 40 years. Rosalind, or Roz, was a strong woman, a proud art historian. "Roz, I need to tell you something, and then I need your help to execute a plan," I said without preamble. "Oh, Ellie?" Roz replied, her voice instantly switching to serious mode. "Hearing your voice, I know someone has poked the dragon. Tell me everything." I recounted the entire story to her, from the details of the 7-course dinner and the sculpted cake to the cruel conversation I overheard on the patio. Roz listened in silence, and when I finished, she sighed heavily, a sound that echoed deep disappointment. "Eleanor, that girl is a viper," Roz said firmly. "How dare she talk about you like that after everything you've done for them? You're giving them a work of art, a legacy, and they plan to exchange it by making you an unpaid nanny? I know, Roz, but here's the best part. I have a plan, and I need you to be my shield. Say the word. You know I'll do anything for you." I explained my idea step by step. Roz was so amazed she burst out laughing. "Ellie, you are a genius. That spoiled girl is going to get the surprise of her life. Trust me, I am with you on this." Roz's support solidified my resolve. This was not an impulsive act. This was a demonstration to reclaim the dignity and respect I deserved after years of sacrifice. On Thursday morning, I began executing the first phase of the plan. I called every vendor I had hired for the reception. Although I was cooking the 7-course dinner myself, I needed professional servers, cleanup crew, and refrigerated transport. "Good morning. This is Eleanor Vance. I need to cancel all contracts for the wedding this Saturday. I know it's last minute, but a personal emergency situation has arisen. Some vendors tried to charge cancellation fees, but I negotiated, paying only the minimum penalties. I accepted, considering it the cost of the expensive lesson I was about to teach my son. In total, I lost nearly $2,000 in fees, but the freedom that awaited was priceless. Next, I called the florist where I had ordered lavish bouquets for extra decoration. "I'm sorry, I need to cancel all centerpiece orders for Saturday. No, I won't need them anymore. I simply won't. The most crucial part, however, was the sculpted wedding cake. It was stored in a secret refrigerated vault in my basement, nearly complete. I didn't destroy it. I had spent a whole week on this creation. It was a part of my soul. I didn't want to destroy it because of someone else's disrespect. I simply kept it. I would not deliver it. It would be a silent symbol of their betrayal. On Friday afternoon, one day before the wedding, I packed my bags. A small suitcase containing clothes for 2 days, the expensive lotions I had long neglected, my favorite detective novel, and necessary medications. Andy called to check in. His voice was as carefree as ever. "Mom, is everything okay? Do you need me to come help transport the special dishes tomorrow morning?" "No, son. Everything is perfect. Tomorrow will be a wonderful day," I replied with perfect composure. My voice didn't tremble. Not a hint of emotion was revealed. "You're the best. Sara and I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for this wedding. You don't need to thank me, Andy. Tomorrow, everything will happen exactly as you planned." That night, I barely slept, but not out of worry. It was the thrill of a soldier about to enter battle, an exciting feeling knowing I was about to reclaim the self-respect that had been stripped away. Saturday morning, the wedding day, I woke up earlier than ever. At 5 a.m., my eyes were wide open, filled with an energy I hadn't felt in years. I showered, did my hair, and put on my most vibrant coral evening gown. It wasn't the dress I intended to wear to the wedding. I had planned a modest gray-silver dress, but this was a special dress, reserved for important occasions. Moments of Eleanor Vance's Declaration of Independence. At 7 a.m., Roz arrived. She brought 2 suitcases and a secretive smile. "Ready for your Freedom Day, Eleanor?" Roz asked, hugging me tightly. "More than ready, Roz. I've been waiting for this moment for the past 2 years without knowing it." We had booked a luxurious spa resort, a 2-hour drive from the city. A beautiful place overlooking a sparkling lake where we could completely relax. The plan included hot stone therapy, a gold facial, exquisite food, and a suite with a private jacuzzi. All the money I had spent on excess ingredients for the wedding, I would now spend on myself. Before leaving, I wrote a letter, placing it on the kitchen table, right where Andy always sat when visiting. "To my beloved Andrew, by the time you read this letter, I will likely be enjoying a well-deserved vacation. For months, I have prepared everything to make your wedding perfect. The gift of the 7-course dinner and the sculpted cake. But on Tuesday, I discovered that Sara and you had other plans for me. Apparently, my role on your special day was to be an unpaid nanny for 15 children throughout the reception, without anyone bothering to ask me. Since the banquet I promised was also part of this unasked-for assignment, I decided to cancel everything. The 7-course gift and the sculpted wedding cake will not be delivered. I hope you find a quick solution. I will return Sunday evening. With all my love, but with full dignity, Mom." As Roz loaded the suitcases into the car, I looked around the house one last time. I looked at the kitchen, where I had planned to work overnight. The dining room where I had hosted food tastings. Everything was done out of unconditional love. But that love was mistaken for servitude. "Ellie, are you sure about this decision?" Roz asked as I got into the car. "Because once we start, there's no turning back." "Roz, I'm 68 years old. If I don't stand up for myself now, then when?" I said, firmly fastening my seatbelt. Roz started the car. The trip to the resort was truly a liberating experience. The drive to the resort was a journey of rebirth and emancipation. As we watched the scenery rush past the windows, Roz and I talked about everything we had been through together over the years. We laughed loudly, recalling the simple problems of when our children were young, when the biggest worry was whether they would eat their vegetables. "I miss those simple problems," I sighed. "At least back then, when you did something out of love, it was received as love, not servitude or convenience." We arrived at the spa at 10 a.m. The place was even more beautiful than I had seen online. Perfectly manicured gardens, a spectacular view of the lake, and a peaceful atmosphere that immediately soothed my tense soul. the receptionist greeted us with a refreshing pineapple cocktail. "Welcome, ladies. Your room is ready and the treatments will begin in 1 hour. Is this a special occasion?" "Yes," I replied with a genuine smile. "I am celebrating my independence." As I settled into the beautiful suite overlooking the lake, I began to visualize what was happening in the city. The wedding was scheduled to begin at 4 p.m., but dinner preparations, especially for the 7-course dinner, had to start very early. Andy had probably called me since 9 a.m., asking if he needed to come help deliver the sculpted cake and the special appetizers. Precisely at 11:30 a.m., as I was stepping into the first massage room, my phone began to ring incessantly. It was Andy. I let it ring. 5 minutes later, it rang again, and then again. I turned the phone off. "Madam Ellie, is everything all right?" the massage therapist asked, seeing me smile cryptically. "Perfectly fine, dear. Please continue." For the next 3 hours, I was completely immersed in enjoyment. The hot stone massage relaxed muscles I didn't even know I was tensing. The gold leaf facial made my skin radiant. Roz and I had lunch at the spa's exquisite restaurant, enjoying delicious food that I didn't have to cook myself, served by people who treated me with genuine respect and courtesy. "You know what I love most about all this?" I said to Roz as we sipped white wine on the lakeside terrace. "What is it?" "It's that for the first time in 2 years, I am doing exactly what I want, when I want, without having to ask anyone if it's okay or if they need me to do something else first." Roz raised her glass. I drink to that and to the look on Serafina's face right now. At 3 p.m., I decided to turn my phone back on. I had 17 missed calls from Andy, 8 frantic text messages, and surprisingly, 3 calls from Sara. Andy had never called me this many times in a row in his life. Not even when his father was in the hospital. The text messages became increasingly desperate. "Andy, Mom, where are you? I've been calling all morning. What's the problem? Andy? Mom? I found the letter. Please call me back urgently. Andy, Mom, the wedding starts in 1 hour. Please answer. Sara, Mama Ellie, please don't do this. You promised. Andy, Mom, where's the sculpted cake? Where are you? The vendors all canceled." The last text, sent only 15 minutes ago, made me curl my lip into a cold smile. Andy, Mom, I know you're angry, but there are 15 children here, and we don't know what to do with them. Their parents are asking who is watching them. I took a deep breath and dialed Andy's number. He picked up on the first ring. "Mom, where are you?" he shouted, his voice full of the desperation I had never heard before. "Hello, son. I'm at a beautiful spa with Roz, enjoying a chocolate massage treatment. How is your wedding going?" My voice was low, gentle, and chillingly calm. "Mom, this can't be happening. The guests have arrived and there's no food. No 7-course dinner, no wedding cake." Sara is crying nonstop. "Oh, son. Didn't you read my letter? I explained everything in it. I canceled all services when I discovered my real role was that of an unpaid nanny, not an honored guest." "But Mom, the wedding has started." "We can't cancel now. Andy, you are a 45-year-old man with a stable job and a fiancé who seems very good at organizing. I'm sure you will find a solution. Is there a fast food restaurant nearby?" "Mom, you can't be serious." "Son, I have never been more serious in my life. Enjoy your wedding. We will enjoy our spa. Oh, and don't wait for me to return early tomorrow. We'll be having breakfast here. Wait, Mom. Sara wants to talk to you." I heard noise, sobbing, and desperate voices in the background. Then, Sara's voice came through, completely lacking the artificial sweetness, only anger and panic. "Eleanor, you can't do this to us. You promised the banquet. There are 150 people here." "My dear Sara," I replied in the calmest tone possible, "I promised the banquet when I thought I was a special guest at your wedding. But when I discovered I was actually an unpaid worker, I changed my mind. As they say, labor must be compensated. I wasn't charging you for my services." Sara screamed into the phone, her voice becoming bitter and distorted with resentment. "And what about the children? There are 15 children here, and their parents expect someone to watch them." "Yes, I imagine that must be very difficult," I replied with feigned sympathy. Don't you have a sister who could help you? What was her name? Bianca. I heard she thought I was very good with children. The silence on the other end was delicious. It lasted a few seconds but felt like an eternity. I could hear the chaos in the background. Children screaming, adults talking loudly, and the sound of something breaking, perhaps a decorative vase. How do you know about Bianca? Sara stammered, for the first time in 2 years. Her voice sounded truly broken, devoid of any false arrogance. Oh, darling, I said, my voice soft as a lullaby. You learn a lot when you are 68 years old. One of those things is that walls have ears, especially when people talk too loudly on my patio. Eleanor, please, can we talk about this later? Right now, I need you to... Sara, you don't need anything from me. Based on what I overheard, what you need is a professional nanny. I suggest you check the phone book. I think they charge about $15 an hour per child. Let's see. 15 children times 6 hours is $1,350. Much cheaper than the $50,000 value of the menu and sculpted cake I had prepared for you. I heard Sara yell at someone in the background. Andy, your mother is crazy. She said she knows everything we said. Then, Andy's voice came back on, but now it was different, deeper, like a boy who has been scolded and knows he did something wrong. Mom, you overheard us talking on the patio? I heard many interesting things, son. For example, that I am a useful old lady who needs to be kept busy so I don't butt into important adult conversations. I also heard that I was so used to babysitting that I wouldn't even realize you were exploiting me. And my favorite? That I was like having a professional nanny for free all night. The silence this time lasted even longer. Roz, who had been listening to the entire conversation from her armchair on the terrace, gave me a thumbs up in admiration. Mom, Andy began in the voice of a chastised child. Andy, you are 45 years old. You are a smart, successful man. Did you seriously not think to ask me if I wanted to spend your entire wedding chasing around 15 children instead of enjoying the celebration of your only son? We thought you liked watching children. I like watching my grandchildren sometimes, Andy. I do not like being the official wedding nanny without anyone consulting me. And I certainly don't like hearing your fiancé think I'm a nuisance who needs to be kept busy to not interfere. Sara didn't say that. Andy tried to defend. Andy, I am 68 years old. I am not confused. I heard every word. I heard it when your wife told her sister how clever she was to get a free nanny. I heard it when they laughed that I wouldn't be able to eat much of the dinner I cooked myself because I would be too busy. I heard it when Bianca said that at least your mother-in-law would be useful for once. This time, the silence was broken by a child's scream in the background and an elderly woman's voice saying, "Where is the woman who was supposed to be watching the children?" My son ran into the ballroom and knocked over all the flower arrangements. There's your answer, son. The show has begun. Mom, please come back. We'll pay you. We'll pay you $1,000 to watch the children. I burst into laughter so loud that Roz jumped. $1,000, Andy. 5 minutes ago, it was a family favor I had to do out of love. And now, when you realize I'm not as stupid as you thought, you want to pay me $1,000 to ruin my coral evening gown chasing kids I don't even know. Sara screamed from a distance. $3,000. We'll pay $3,000. My dear Sara, there isn't enough money in the world to get me to that wedding anymore. But I'll give you free advice. Next time you plan to use someone as a staff member, ask them first. It's basic courtesy. $5,000. Andy wailed, his voice completely desperate. Andy, son, listen to me. If you have $5,000 to pay for a nanny, you also have money to hire a catering service instead of letting me spend my retirement money on your wedding. But it turns out it was more convenient to let me pay for everything and work for free, wasn't it? Roz poured me more wine and whispered, "You are brilliant, my friend." Mom. Andy's voice was now choked. Please don't do this to me. This is my wedding. Andy, I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to me. You and your fiancé decided I was your personal staff member without consulting me. I just decided I wasn't accepting the job. But we can't find any catering this late, Andy cried. The guests will be hungry. You know, son? That's called planning. When you host a wedding, you have to ensure you have enough food and a nanny. You assumed you had both of those for free, but you were wrong. Eleanor, you come back to the reception hall right now, or we will never forgive you. Sara screamed, her voice completely out of control. Her true nature was finally exposed. There it is, I said to Roz, covering the phone. That's the real Serafina. I took my hand off the phone and replied in the calmest voice in the world. My dear Sara, there is nothing to forgive. You planned to exploit me. I decided not to be exploited. It is as simple as that. And frankly, after hearing your true tone, I am very glad I am not there. You are a selfish old woman. You ruined my wedding. No, darling. You ruined your own wedding when you decided that saving money was more important than treating your future mother-in-law with respect. I merely decided not to be complicit in my own humiliation. Andy took the phone back. Mom, the kids are running everywhere. One broke 2 floral arrangements and stained a guest dress. Another one is hiding under the main table. Their parents are furious. Andy, so where is that clever Bianca? Can't she help her sister watch the children? Bianca said she didn't know she had to watch kids, that it was your job. How convenient. Miss Bianca, who laughed that the old lady would look after all the screaming kids, now says she can't help. Andy, please. Andy, I have to hang up now because my chocolate massage is waiting. But before I do, let me tell you this. I hope this experience teaches you that I am not your personal staff member. I am a 68-year-old woman who deserves respect, not a servant you can use at your convenience. Wait, Mom. What? You're really not coming? I am really not coming. Enjoy your wedding. We will enjoy our spa, and tomorrow we will decide. First, I want you to reflect on what happened here. And I want your wife to reflect on what it means to have a family. But Mom, Andy, I have to go. The massage therapist is waiting for me. And unlike you two, she treats me with respect, because I am paying for her service. I hung up the phone and silenced it. Roz applauded. Ellie, masterfully done. How do you feel? I feel free, Roz. For the first time in 2 years, I feel completely liberated. After hanging up, I sat on the spa terrace looking out at the lake, feeling a serenity I hadn't experienced in a long time. Roz looked at me with a mix of admiration and concern. Ellie, are you sure you did the right thing? She asked, taking a sip of wine. I mean, I know you are right, but Andy is your only son. Roz, precisely because he is my only son, I need to teach him this lesson. If I don't do it now, Sara will turn him into a man who treats his mother like an unpaid employee, and I will not allow that. For the next 2 hours, my phone vibrated continuously, but I was no longer bothered. Every vibration was a confirmation that I had made the right decision. If Andy and Sara were truly remorseful for what they had done, they would have sent a sincere apology text instead of continuing to try to manipulate me into solving their problems. At 8 p.m., I decided to check my phone. I had 43 missed calls, 26 text messages, and surprisingly, a few texts from unknown numbers. Apparently, some relatives had found my number to try to convince me to come back. The messages were increasingly desperate and revealing the truth. Andy. Mom, we had to order pizza for all the guests. It cost $1,500. Andy. Mom, the parents of 3 children angrily left because no one was watching them. Andy, Sara is crying in the bathroom. She says you ruined the most important day of her life. Unknown number, Veronica, Andy's aunt. Ellie, what is going on? Andy called me in despair. The text that caught my attention the most was from an unfamiliar number. Madam Ellie, I am Carol, the mother of one of the children at your son's wedding. I want to tell you that I and a few other parents are very upset, because we were told there would be childcare, but it turned out there was none. A few of us left. What they did to you was wrong. Look at this, Roz. I showed Roz the message. Apparently I'm not the only one who thinks what they did was wrong. Of course not. Any decent person would realize that treating the groom's mother like that is unacceptable. At 9 p.m., while we were having a late dinner at the spa's elegant restaurant, my phone rang again. This time it was a number I recognized. My sister-in-law, Veronica, my late husband's sister. Veronica was always straightforward and honest with me. "Ellie, what's happening?" Andy called me in tears, saying he has no wedding cake, no food, and he had to cancel the entire dinner reception. I told her the whole story from the beginning, including the conversation I overheard and the feeling of betrayal. "Ellie, you did the right thing," Veronica said without a moment's hesitation. "If my brother were alive, he would be chasing Andy himself to teach him a lesson. No one should treat their mother like that, especially after all you've done for this family." "You truly think I did the right thing, Veronica?" "Ellie, I've known Andy since he was born. He's a good kid, but that girl has completely manipulated him. It was time someone opened his eyes. And if that person has to be you, his mother, so be it." Veronica informed me that other relatives were also aware because Andy had called everywhere begging for help. Most people were siding with me. "Your cousin Clara said Sara always seemed fake to her. And your nephew Tony is furious with Andy for treating you like that." After talking to Veronica, I felt even more confident in my decision. I was not a wicked mother. I was a mother who respected herself and was teaching her son to do the same. At 10 p.m., Roz and I returned to our room. I had a beautiful suite with a private terrace overlooking the lake. I put on my most comfortable pajamas, poured myself a glass of wine from the mini fridge, and sat on the terrace stargazing. My phone continued to vibrate intermittently, but I no longer felt annoyed. Each vibration was a confirmation that I had made the correct decision. If Andy and Sara were truly remorseful for what they had done, they would have sent a sincere apology text instead of continuing to try to manipulate me into fixing their problems. Finally, at 11 p.m., I decided to read all the messages that had come in over the past 3 hours. Andy: "Mom, the wedding is over. It was a disaster." Andy: "Mom, the kids broke 2 decorations and stained a guest's dress." Andy: "Sarah's sister had to watch some of the children, and she's furious at us." Andy: "Sara says she won't forgive me because you ruined her wedding." Andy: "Mom, why did you do this to me? I thought you loved me." That last text twisted my heart, but it also confirmed that Andy still didn't understand. This was not about love. This was about respect. I could love my son with all my heart, and simultaneously refuse to allow him to disrespect me. I decided to only respond to that last message. Andy: "It is because I love you that I will not allow you to treat me like staff. A son who loves his mother would not plan to exploit her without consulting her. A son who loves his mother would not let his wife mock his mother. I love you, but I also love myself. And it's time you knew that." The response came immediately. Andy: "Mom, Sara says, maybe it's best if we move to another city. She says she can't live in the same place as the person who ruined her wedding." I read that text 3 times before responding. Sara was playing her final card, emotional blackmail against Andy, threatening to pull him away from me. Andy: "If Sara wants to move because she cannot face the consequences of her actions, that is a decision you two must make as adults. But remember, a woman who truly loves you would never pull you away from your family as punishment for something you didn't do." There was no response after that. I stayed on the terrace for a long time, listening to the gentle lapping of the lake and feeling a tremendous peace. Night had fallen. Roz and I had agreed to meet for breakfast at 9 a.m., but I woke up at 7 a.m., enjoying the silence and the lake view from the terrace. My phone was silent all night, which meant more to me than all the desperate texts of the previous day. Either Andy had finally understood the message, or he was too angry to talk to me anymore. Both options were better than continuing to receive messages attempting to manipulate me. When Roz and I met at the spa restaurant, she looked at me inquisitively. "You look different, Ellie. Lighter." "I feel different." "Roz." It's as if I've been carrying a massive weight on my shoulders for 2 years and have finally managed to put it down. We ordered a full breakfast with fresh fruit, yogurt, pancakes, and coffee. While eating, we talked about everything except the wedding. We discussed plans for the coming months, the books we wanted to read, the trips we had always dreamed of but postponed to be available for family needs. "You know, Roz, I think we'll take that European trip we've been planning for so long. Seriously? You won't wait to see if Andy and Sara need you to babysit their future children? Andy is 45 years old. If he decides to have children, he can hire a nanny like any normal person. I will be present as a grandmother, not an unpaid employee. After breakfast, we decided to linger a little longer. We booked the private jacuzzi for another 2 hours and spent the morning completely relaxing. This was the first time in many years I had dedicated so much time just to thinking about my own well-being. By noon, as we were packing up to return, I decided to turn my phone back on. I had 3 new messages, all from Andy, sent early in the morning. Andy: Mom, Sara and I talked all night. Andy: She is very hurt, but she admits that maybe we didn't treat you well. Andy: Can we talk when you get back? The messages were different, less desperate, more reflective. But I also noticed one important thing. There was no genuine apology, only an admission that maybe they hadn't treated me well. Maybe was not enough for what had transpired. I decided not to respond yet. I wanted to go home, lie down on my familiar bed, and carefully consider what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. The drive back was quiet. Roz and I talked about the significance of this weekend for me. You know the most important thing I learned, Roz? It's that you can love your family and simultaneously establish boundaries. All these years, I thought loving meant saying yes to everything. But now I understand that sometimes loving means saying no. That's a lesson many women of our generation need to learn, Ellie, Roz replied. We were raised to believe our value depended on how much we sacrificed for others. I arrived home at 5 p.m. The house felt different, as if it had been empty for longer than 2 days. I made myself a cup of tea, put on my most comfortable clothes, and sat in my favorite armchair in the living room. It was time to decide the next step. At 6 p.m., the doorbell rang. I looked through the window and saw Andy's car parked outside. He stood alone at the door, his head bowed. I took a deep breath and opened the door. "Hello, Mom," he said in a quiet voice. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Hello, Andy. Come in." We sat in the living room, him on the sofa and me in my armchair. The silence lasted for several minutes until Andy finally spoke. "Mom, I have to apologize. I'm listening. Sara and I talked all night after the wedding. At first, she was furious at you, but when I told her exactly what you had overheard, she realized how terrible the things she said were." "And you realized that too?" Andy lowered his head further. "Yes, Mom. I realized that for the past 2 years, I have been treating you as if you were my employee instead of my mother. And how do you feel about that?" "I feel terrible. I feel ashamed. Dad must be turning in his grave over the way I treated the woman he loved for 30 years. The mention of his father touched my heart. But I maintained my composure. "Andy, I need you to understand one thing. It's not just about what happened with the wedding. It's about 2 years of assuming I was available for everything without ever asking me if I wanted to do it. I know, Mom, and you're right. When Sara suggested we ask you for a favor, I never stopped to think if it was fair to you. I just thought, Mom always says yes, so it's not a problem." "So what about Sara? How does she truly feel?" Andy sighed deeply. "She's ashamed. She said she never had a mother-in-law before and didn't know how to treat you. But she admits that what she said to Bianca about you was very wrong." "Andy, did she genuinely admit that, or are you trying to soften what she truly thinks?" "No, Mom, she admitted it. In fact, she wants to come apologize to you directly, but I told her I had to talk to you first." I stood up and walked to the window. The garden looked neglected. I had been so busy with wedding preparations that I hadn't had time to care for my flowers. "Andy, I need to ask you a very direct question, and I want you to answer me truthfully," I said, turning back around. "Go ahead. Does Sara respect me as a person, or does she only see me as a useful resource who is always available when she needs her?" Andy was silent for a long time. "Mom, I think until yesterday those two things were mixed up. But after seeing the consequences of treating you like a resource, she realized she had lost respect for you as a person, And you? Do you see me as your mother or as your personal staff? Mom, that question hurts me, but I understand why you're asking. And the honest answer is that for the past 2 years, without realizing it, I started treating you more as my problem solver than my mother, who deserves to be consulted and respected. I sat down and looked him straight in the eye. Andy, I appreciate your honesty, but I need you to understand that things will change from now on. I understand, Mom. What do you need from us? I need that the next time you want to ask me for help, you must ask me if I can and want to do it. Not assume I will say yes. I need you to treat me as a guest at family events, not as part of the catering team. And I need Sara to understand that I am her husband's mother, not her employee. All of that is fair, Mom. Is there anything else? Yes. I need you to understand that I have the right to say no without explanation, and when I say no, you will not try to manipulate or make me feel guilty to change my mind. Is that clear? Clear, Mom. And Andy, one more thing. The next time Sara speaks ill of me to someone, you must defend me. You will not stand by silently while your wife disrespects me. Andy nodded firmly. You're right. I should have defended you from the start. We were silent for a few minutes. I could see Andy processing everything we had discussed. Mom, do you forgive me? Andy, you are my son and I will always love you. But forgiveness is built on actions, not just words. I need to see real changes in how you treat me before I can say everything is forgiven. That's fair. What about Sara? Will you give her a chance to apologize? If she wants to apologize sincerely, not because you asked her to, but because she genuinely regrets how she treated me, then yes, I will listen to her. She wants to, Mom, but she's afraid you'll reject her. Andy, I don't reject sincere apologies, but I also don't accept fake ones just to keep the peace. I understand. When is a good time for her to come? Give her a few days to think carefully about what she wants to say. And Andy, make sure she understands that I don't expect her to pretend we're best friends overnight. I just expect basic respect. Thank you, Mom. That means a lot to both of us, that you're giving her this chance. Andy, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for myself, because I want to know if this situation has a solution, or if I need to accept that my daughter-in-law and I will never get along. Exactly at 4 p.m. on Thursday, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was surprised to see Sara. She looked completely different from what I was used to. She wore no makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore jeans with a plain blouse. But the most remarkable thing was her expression. She no longer had the perfect smile she always wore. She looked vulnerable, almost fragile. "Hello, Madam Ellie," she said in a small voice. "Thank you for meeting me." "Come in, Sara. Sit wherever you feel comfortable." She sat on the edge of the sofa as if ready to flee at any moment. I sat in my armchair and waited for her to speak. "I don't know where to start," she admitted after a few minutes of silence. "Start wherever you feel comfortable." "Madam Ellie, I want to apologize for everything I said about you. It was cruel, disrespectful, and totally unfair." "And why did you say it?" Sara bowed her head. "Why?" "Because I am 26 years old and I've never had a mother-in-law before. My mother died when I was 15, and my father remarried a woman who never loved me. When I met Andy and met you, I didn't know how to handle the feeling of having a mother figure again. And your solution was to treat me like staff. It wasn't conscious. Madam Ellie, at first you intimidated me a lot. You are so confident, so good at everything you do, so loved by the whole family. I felt like I would never measure up, Sara. That doesn't explain why you spoke about me like that to your sister." Sara was silent for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was just a whisper. Because when you feel insecure, sometimes you try to make yourself feel better by making others seem less important. I know that sounds terrible, but it's the truth. At least you are being honest. Madam Ellie, when you didn't show up at the wedding and I read your letter, I realized a terrible thing. I realized I was trying to turn Andy into a man who put my comfort above his own mother. And that was deeply wrong. And how do you feel about that now? Now I feel ashamed. I feel guilty. And I feel sad because I lost the opportunity to have a real relationship with the woman who raised the man I love. Tears began to roll down her cheeks, and for the first time since I met her, they seemed genuine, not calculated. Sara, I appreciate your honesty, but I need to ask you one direct question. Do you genuinely want a relationship with me? Or are you just trying to fix this so Andy will be happy? At first, I admit I just wanted to fix things so Andy wouldn't be upset. But these past few days, I've thought a lot, and I realize I lost something important too. I lost the chance to have a mother again. Sara, I cannot be your mother. Your mother is gone and no one can replace her. But I can be your mother-in-law, one who respects you and expects respect in return. That's all I want. Madam Ellie, mutual respect and a chance to start over. And are you truly willing to change the way you treat me? Yes, I will no longer assume you are available to help us. I will ask you before planning anything involving you, and I will try to treat you like family, not a catering staff member. And what happens if I say no to something you ask? Then I will respect your decision without trying to guilt trip you. We were silent for a few minutes. I could see Sara waiting for my answer, but I needed time to process everything she had said. Sara, I will be honest with you. I am not convinced yet. You will have to prove to me with actions that these changes are real, not just words to get out of trouble. I completely understand. What do you need me to do? I need time. I need to see how you treat me in the coming months when you are not in crisis. Will you give me that chance? Yes, Madam Ellie, I will give you a chance, but it will be your only chance. If you disrespect me or treat me like staff again, there will be no second chance. I understand. And Madam Ellie, is there anything specific I can do to start rebuilding your trust? I thought about her question for a moment. Yes, there is. I want you to tell your sister, Bianca, what really happened. Not a watered-down version, but the absolute truth. I want her to understand that what you said about me was wrong. Sara nodded immediately. I already did, Madam Ellie. I called her on Monday and told her everything. She wanted to apologize to you, too. I don't need Bianca to apologize to me. I don't know her well enough for her opinion to matter to me, but I need her to understand that she cannot speak about me like that when she comes to my house. She understands. In fact, she was very ashamed of what she said. All right. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Yes. I want to thank you for teaching us this lesson. I know it wasn't your responsibility to educate us on respect, but you did it in a way that we will never forget. Sara, I didn't want to teach you any lessons. I only wanted to be treated with dignity, and I have every right to demand that. Madam Ellie, do you think one day we can have a normal mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship? Sara asked, her eyes still teary. That will depend on you, Sara. I am willing to try if you truly change. I will change. I promise. Don't promise me anything. Just show me. Sara stood up to leave, but before reaching the door, she turned back to me. Madam Ellie, can I ask you one thing? Go ahead. How can I be a good daughter-in-law? I genuinely don't know how. Her question surprised me with its simplicity and sincerity. Sara, being a good daughter-in-law is like being a good person. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Ask before you assume. Respect boundaries. And remember that behind every favor someone does for you is a person who chose to help you. Can I ask you when I have doubts about something? If they are genuine questions and not veiled manipulations, yes. Thank you, Madam Ellie. Thank you for everything. When Sara left, I sat in the living room with a mixed feeling of cautious hope and emotional exhaustion. The conversation seemed sincere, but only time would tell if the changes would last past the crisis. The next 2 weeks were a revelation. For the first time in 2 years, Andy and Sara did not call me to ask for any favors. There were no messages assuming I would be available to cook, clean, or babysit anything. At first, I thought they were angry and punishing me with silence. But then I realized they were simply respecting my space in a way they never had before. The first real test came on the Friday of the second week. Andy called me around 7 p.m., and by his tone I could tell he was nervous. Mom, I need to ask you a favor. My heart sank a little. They were back to their old ways. Tell me, Andy. It's Sarah's birthday on Saturday, and I want to throw her a surprise party. Could you help me organize it? Andy, are you asking me to organize the entire party for you? No, Mom, absolutely not. I've hired a caterer, booked the venue, and sent the invitations. I just need your help with the decorations, as you have an amazing eye for those things. But of course, I will pay you for your time and ideas. I was genuinely surprised. Andy had done most of the work himself. He was only asking for specific help with one thing he knew I was good at, and he offered to pay. Andy, you don't need to pay me to help with the decorations. That's something I can do as a gift for Sara. But I appreciate that you asked instead of assuming. You will actually help me? Of course. That sounds like a very sweet gesture from you. Thank you, Mom. And if at any point you feel it's too much work, just tell me and I'll hire someone else. All right, son. That conversation confirmed that the changes were real. Andy had learned to plan his own events, not to assume my availability, and to offer compensation for my time. But more importantly, he had learned to give me an easy way out without making me feel guilty. Saturday, Sarah's birthday, was a complete revelation. Andy and I spent the morning decorating his backyard with gold balloons and fresh flowers. He had bought all the materials and only needed my input on color combinations and where to place everything. We worked together as a team, talking and laughing as we transformed the space. Mom, this looks beautiful, Andy said as we hung the last lights. Sara is going to be thrilled. I hope so. I can tell you love her very much. I do. But I also learned that loving your wife doesn't mean you have to stop respecting your mother. I'm glad you learned that. Son. When Sara arrived that night, pretending she was just coming over for an intimate dinner, her surprise was genuine and touching. Seeing the decorated backyard and all her friends waiting, she burst into tears of joy. I can't believe you did all this, she exclaimed, hugging Andy. Mama Ellie helped me with the decorations, Andy said. She has an incredible talent for these things. Sara walked up and gave me a sincere hug. Thank you, Madam Ellie. Everything looks gorgeous. My pleasure to help, Sara. Happy birthday. Throughout the party, I observed how Andy and Sara interacted with me. They invited me into conversations. They introduced me to their friends as Andy's mother with pride, not as the one who helped decorate. They arranged for me to sit at the main table as family, not at a separate table as staff. The most important thing of all was when a friend of Sara's complimented the decorations. Sara, you have such exquisite taste. Where did you learn to decorate like that? Actually, Madam Ellie designed everything, Sara replied immediately. She has a natural talent for these things. I'm just lucky to have her help. Instead of taking credit, Sara completely gave it back to me. It was a small but significant change that showed she had truly understood the lesson. 2 weeks after the disastrous wedding, I received a call I didn't expect. It was Carol, the mother who had texted me during the wedding. Madam Ellie, I hope you remember me. I'm Carol, the mother of one of the children at your son's wedding. Of course I remember you, Carol. How are you? I'm well, thank you. I called because I wanted to tell you this. Do you remember Michael, Sara's father? Yes, what about him? It turns out he and I met at the wedding when we were all trying to manage the unsupervised children. We started talking about what happened with you, and both of us agreed that what they did to you was very wrong. And well, we've been dating ever since, and he told me more details about the situation. I wanted you to know that he also lectured Sara about how they treated you. I chuckled. Seriously? Sara's father stood up for me? Yes, and quite strongly. He told Sara that you were incredibly generous to prepare the banquet, and that taking advantage of you as a nanny without consulting you was unacceptable. He said he felt very ashamed to know the whole story. I'm glad to know that, Carol. Madam Ellie, all of us, the parents who were at that wedding, were so impressed by what you did. Not many people your age have the courage to stand up for themselves like that. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself regardless of age. Exactly. And we want you to know that we respect you very much for that. That call gave me an unexpected satisfaction. I had not only protected my dignity with my own family, but my example had radiated out to other people who witnessed the situation. 3 months after the wedding, Sara invited me out to lunch, just the two of us. We met at a quiet cafe near my house, and over the meal we had the most honest conversation we had ever had. "Madam Ellie, can I tell you something private?" "Of course, Sara." "Since the wedding, I've been going to therapy." "Really? Why?" "Because I realized I have issues relating to mother figures. After my mom died, I developed defense mechanisms that included devaluing other older women to emotionally protect myself." "That explains a lot." "Yes. My therapist helped me understand why I felt so threatened by you at first. You represented everything I lost when my mother passed away. And instead of allowing myself to miss my mom, I decided to act as if mothers weren't important. Sara, that must be very painful for you." "It was, but I didn't realize it. I thought I had moved past her death, but I was really just burying the grief." "And how do you feel now?" "I feel freer, and I feel grateful to have a second chance with you." "Madam Ellie, will you allow me to start over as if we met for the first time?" "What do you mean?" "I want to truly get to know you. Your stories, your dreams, your opinions, not as the potentially useful mother-in-law, but as Eleanor, the person." "I would love that. Sara, can I ask you a question?" "Ask as many as you like." "What dream of yours did you put on hold when you got married and had Andy?" My question surprised her with its depth and sincerity. "I've always wanted to write a book." "About what?" "About my grandmother's recipes and our family stories, but I always found excuses not to start." "And why don't you start now?" "Madam Ellie, you taught me that it's never too late to stand up for yourself and change a situation. Perhaps it's also not too late to pursue a dream." That conversation planted a seed in my mind. Over the next few weeks, I seriously began to think about writing the book I had always wanted. 6 months after the disastrous wedding, Andy and Sara invited me to dinner to announce special news. "Mom, we're pregnant," Andy announced with a radiant smile. "That's wonderful," I exclaimed, hugging both of them. "I'm going to be a grandmother," Sara said, holding my hand. "We want to ask you something important." "Go ahead." "We want you to be the grandmother who chooses her level of involvement. We will not assume anything. We won't expect you to babysit when we want to go out. We want you to decide for yourself what kind of grandmother you want to be. And if you want to be the grandmother who only comes for tea and to read stories once a week, that's completely fine," Andy added. "If you want to be the grandmother who occasionally watches the baby, that's also completely fine. You decide." I was moved to tears. Children, that is all I ever wanted. The freedom to choose how to love my family. "And what do you choose, Madam Ellie?" Sara asked. "I choose to be a grandmother who is always available when you truly need me, but also one who has her own life, her own plans, and her own dreams." "Perfect," Andy said. That is exactly what we wanted. 1 year after the disastrous wedding, I published my family recipe book. It was called Cooking with Love, Serving with Dignity, Recipes and Reflections of a Modern Matriarch. Sara helped me promote it on social media, and Andy hosted a book launch at their home. During the book introduction, I reflected on everything that had happened since that afternoon when I overheard the conversation on my patio. This book, I told the guests, is not just about recipes. It's about the importance of maintaining our dignity while we serve the people we love. It's about the difference between giving out of love and being used out of convenience. After the introduction, Sara walked up to me. "Madam Ellie, I have something to confess. The biggest inspiration for this book was you. Your courage to stand up for yourself taught me that you can love deeply and simultaneously respect yourself." "Sara, that means the world to me, Madam Ellie. May I call you Mama Ellie sincerely from now on?" "I would love that, darling." That night, as I signed books, I realized that the decision not to attend that wedding was the best decision I had made in years. Not only did I reclaim my dignity, but I also taught my family the true meaning of mutual respect. Now I am 69 years old with a grandchild on the way, a published book, and a family that treats me like the respected matriarch I always deserved to be. Sometimes, Saying no to disrespect is the most powerful way to say yes to your own worth. My story, that of Ellie Vance, is proof that we are never too old to reclaim dignity, redefine boundaries, and turn pain into a legacy. If you, like me, have ever felt exploited or undervalued after years of sacrifice, remember, love must be given, not taken for granted. Grab your freedom! Share this story to inspire women seeking their voice. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to not miss our next profound life lessons. Let's build a generation of respected women together.